Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Chris Magra. I'm the director of the Center for the Study of Tennesseans and War, and we're here today to talk about Paul Huff. Paul Huff was born and raised in Tennessee, and he earned the Medal of Honor in World War II. He rose to the rank of Army Command Sergeant Major, and he led a group of soldiers on a dangerous reconnaissance mission in Italy that would ultimately bring down the enemy targeting his company. And for his bravery, he earned the Medal of Honor. He was born in 1918 in Cleveland, Tennessee, and he was one of 9 children. Unfortunately for the large family, their mother died when Huff was only 5 years old. And we're going to talk about his family. We were fortunate that his wife Betty and his daughter Dawn invited us into their home to talk about Paul's life and his military service. All right, well, welcome everybody. We are honored today to be in the home of a Medal of Honor winner and a Tennessean, Paul Huff. And we have his daughter with us today, and we have his lovely wife with us today. And we're going to talk about Paul and his life before his military service. We're going to talk about his military service and then what he did after his military service. And it's a special day, and a special day to be here. Thank you all for having me in your home. Can you talk to us a little bit about when and where Paul Huff was born? He was born in Cleveland, Tennessee, wasn't he?
Yes. 19 and 16.
Okay.
18.
Okay. 1918
That's right. I get the 6 and 8s.
Okay. 1918 in Cleveland, Tennessee. And can you tell us about how he grew up? Did he grow up on a farm in Cleveland, Tennessee? What his early life was like in the 19-teens, 1920s?
Oh, there was a large family. He had twin brothers, and he had, I think, six sisters.
And another brother.
Okay.
And he had a pretty rough time growing up. At that time, it was hard. But he did it fine. He had 2 jobs. He took care of a lot of things for his dad. And
because his dad was working for the
railroad, yeah. And Paul had 2 jobs, so he worked part-time on the railroad and part-time upholsterer.
Was the railroad around Chattanooga?
No, it was in Cleveland.
Okay, it was a Cleveland Railroad.
Yeah.
And did anybody in his family serve in the military? Did his dad serve in the military? Grandfather, uncles?
Did anybody in Dad's family serve in the military besides him?
I think one of the twin boys did a while. I think the Navy was what I know. I had a brother in the Navy too, and one in the Army. So we were among all the military there too.
And his mom died when he was really young.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think 6 months they lost her.
6 months after the twins were born.
Wow. So his dad raised him?
Well, his oldest sister raised them.
Yeah, she was 101 when she passed away, but she was in a wheelchair too, so. But she's waited on a lot of people. That was her job, you know, when she had time.
Okay.
But she never married.
She just took care of the family. Yeah. Well, Did Paul go to college?
No, no, he joined the military there. He wasn't drafted. I mean, he was drafted, but he didn't. He too old.
Okay.
Like the other young guys, they enjoyed that, you know. But he was pretty dependent on himself, you know.
So did he work once he graduated high school?
No, he got his GED, so that's.
I think he just went through 10th grade to 10th grade and
Yeah.
then ended up getting his GED because he was working.
And what did he do when he was working?
Well, he was career military, so
Okay.
once he was in the Army, he went overseas and
Okay. So when did he join the Army then?
And we were married in 45. I think it was 41, I believe, or 40. Yeah, 41, I believe.
Okay.
Wasn't
have all
it?
that.
Now,
The daughter.
my granddaughter did this in her schooling
Yes.
a long time ago.
Yes.
So he was drafted in 41.
41, yeah.
Okay. Now, so he's born in 1918, and he's drafted in 1941. So, and he only went to school till 10th grade.
So he did the railway and
He
the
worked on
upholstery.
He worked on a
Yeah, he-
railroad and in
he
upholstery.
sewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he sewed. Oh, okay.
He repaired our furniture growing up.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
something he would.
Yeah.
He had a nice Pontiac convertible that
Yes.
that he when he was out riding it when the president called everybody back in.
Yeah.
So
He was out in his convertible when you heard about the war.
yeah,
Yeah. And he was drafted in 1941 into the Army.
Into the Army, yes. Into the Army, he
Yeah.
was drafted.
Okay.
he joined the paratroopers
Yes. Yes,
when they
ma'am.
asked.
Now, when he was drafted, how did he feel about being drafted? Do you remember him talking about that?
See, I didn't meet him till he came back.
Okay. Okay. Did he ever say anything to you
or-
about being drafted?
He didn't talk much about
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
He never talked about much.
Okay.
You know,
Yep.
he just didn't think much about it. He was just Paul, and that was the way he was.
Can you talk about him? What was he like?
See, I didn't know until he came back, so I found out. I went to where he came home, and all the family was there. He didn't know me, I didn't know him.
Was he a quiet man?
Was he quiet?
Was he quiet? Yes. I think he was really bothered that he didn't get it out of him. He held a lot in of his buddies that were killed. So I see a lot of things now, you know, I think about it.
Yes, ma'am. Now, he was drafted in 1941, and he's in the Army. Do you know anything about his military service? Can you tell us where he did basic training?
He did his basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And he went to England too then.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but they flew him back, you know, when he received the medal. And his buddy Knappenberger was with him, and they were pretty close, you know. And we visited him after we were married. We went down to visit him. But
And they received, weren't they? They both received the medal.
yeah, from the general there.
From Mark Clark.
In the field there. I didn't know that, but it was on the picture, you know, they made. So it was, they used to hide in haystacks from the Germans and
Yes, ma'am. They sure did.
miss the pitchforks that yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Now he then, after Fort Benning, he is part of the American Expeditionary Force that goes over to England, and he's in England for a while. Do you know if he wrote any letters home while he was overseas?
Oh, I got a lot of letters from him, but
He wrote to his sisters. He wrote to.
yeah, he wrote. Of course, Burl, the oldest one. He wrote her, and Bola, I think, because one of his sisters had a little girl when he came back, named her Paula for him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
But-
And did he write you letters?
Yeah.
He did.
From Vietnam.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because they didn't
Later
marry
on, he wrote you letters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
he went to
you hadn't
Vietnam.
met him yet.
right.
Gotcha.
She
Okay.
dated one of the twins before.
Oh, you dated one of his brothers?
He what?
You went out with one of the.
Oh,
It happens. Hey.
Because they were closer to her age.
Yeah.
My dad was 6 years older than her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, can you tell us what Paul did after he's over in England?
yeah, he was stationed in North Africa, and then he fought in Italy.
On February 8th, 1944, Paul Huff and his platoon were staked out on the Anzio beachhead when Germans started shelling some members of their company from a nearby hill. Huff volunteered to lead a 6-man team on a mission to figure out the enemy unit's exact location and how many fighters the enemy had. The men had to traverse rolling hills to get closer to the enemy, which left them exposed. They were shot at by small arms and machine gun fire, as well as several mortar shells that burst within yards of them. When Paul Huff moved ahead of the rest of his men, he realized he was being shot at by 3 enemy machine guns and a 20mm weapon. The situation became extremely dangerous for Paul. He didn't want his men to move any further into that situation, so he went on alone, continually being shot at while crossing a minefield. Eventually, he made his way to within 75 yards of the closest machine gun nest, while yet another machine gun position continued to fire at him. Huff crawled all the way to the nearby nest. He got close enough to kneel down and kill the nest's crew while destroying their weapon. His actions exposed him to the rest of the enemy gunners who continued to fire on him, but in doing so, he was able to figure out how many enemy soldiers were left, where exactly they were positioned. Armed with that information, he crawled back to his patrol, led them to safety, and then passed that information on to his superiors. Later on that afternoon, an Allied patrol marching against the enemy, including a group of men under Huff's leadership, was sent to rout the enemy. The Americans lost 3 patrol members in the fight, but they were able to oust a 125-man enemy company, killing 27 Germans and capturing 21 others.
So he went from England over to North Africa. Okay. And then he's part of the American army that's liberating Italy.
Well, Okay.
Paul was in North Africa,
Now,
and he
where
was,
we left off.
and he was going to Italy to liberate Italy from Mussolini and the Italian fascists who had allied with Hitler in World War II. Now,
Now, where was that? Where are we now?
Where you were, well, he went to Fort Benning, and he went to jump school, and he was the first person to go through jump school with a mustache.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
you wanted to tell us about
Yeah.
his mustache.
I'd never seen him with a mustache, without a mustache, and they had him dig up and bury cigarette butts and cover them up. Then they made him dig them up again, put them back in, cover them again. He did that off and on, and they'd tried to get him to shave his mustache. No, he never did. He says, I have my rights.
Okay, you had to write those.
So
mustache.
he went through jump school with a mustache. He went through the whole army with a mustache. Never shaved it.
And did he smoke too? Is that why he was digging up the cigarette butts?
Yes.
Did he smoke for most of his life?
I know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know him without it, so.
Yeah. So in Italy, can you talk to us a little bit about Italy and what he did in Italy?
Yeah, he knows better the story. He can tell the story better than I can.
Okay.
What is it about?
It's citation.
Yeah, it's on the citation.
Okay.
What about Don?
About what he did in
Oh,
Anzio.
yeah.
Yeah. He routed away through the minefields and single by himself, figured out where all the enemy was.
He dared himself to go up there and get rid of them so they wouldn't get his men. He lost two, I think, out of the second time he did it. But he killed all of them.
So he's at Anzio, and he is part of the United States military. They're liberating Italy. Can you tell us about his military service in Italy? Either one of you,
About the
right?
Can you tell him about his military service in Italy? What all he did?
Well, I don't know. He fought in Italy. He received his Medal of Honor for routing away through the minefields at Anzio Beach, Italy, and led his patrol through it. He was the first paratrooper to receive the medal. And that's what I wanted to tell you right there, that the two lieutenants that were in a foxhole were the witness for him. They were both killed that night. And I thought that was so strange. If they hadn't gotten killed, say, he was still gotten it, but he was just there at the right time, I guess, you know. I don't know.
Well, he stepped up. He stepped up to lead the patrol through.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But he would not say that. He
But
would
I
say he
hate
was
they were
just-
killed, so, but they were.
So for most of his life, when he was talking about his military service, if he talked about his military service, he would say he just happened to be in the right place at the right time, something to that effect, and got the Medal of Honor for that. But in actuality, he got the Medal of Honor for saving people's lives.
Well, after years, he took the picture and his medal and showed the father that one of the guys that was killed in the foxhole. He always thought about him, you know. And I thought that was such a nice offer for him to do.
He met with one of the soldiers who was killed, one of their family members, and talked about
The one that was killed in the foxhole. One of the lieutenants, I think they were both lieutenants. But he went to the family later in his life.
And he took the medal with him?
And the pictures of them. And I think his father was a minister.
And what do you remember most about Paul?
He was such a good person, and he's like Kurt, he'd do for anybody, you know. Anything they needed, he would help.
And what do you remember most about your dad?
Don't you, Don?
You made me start.
He always thought she was the greatest thing.
Yes. I think my daughter's the greatest thing too.
Yeah. She'd be embarrassed if he'd say anything about her. If when he'd go to a store, you know, he'd brag on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd say, "This is my daughter. She's a doctor."
Yeah, Don just walk off.
And do you remember your dad talking about his military service?
He didn't talk much at all about World War II.
No.
Yeah.
Right. He in Vietnam, you know, I was 8 or so, and he would send me letters. He wrote all of us letters all the time. I still have the stack of them. But we only heard funny stories. He was a prankster, and so we only heard that kind of stuff from him. Nothing, you know, and yeah.
Fort Campbell, yeah, he had to go with him.
And, you know, he had to get special permission
Yeah,
to be
he
able to
had
go back into combat.
Well, I was gonna
He
ask-
wouldn't go without Paul because he had a son that was not right. And Paul would help with him, you know. General, not Barsoni, Lord have mercy. I wouldn't have thought of him for a nickel.
I was going to ask you about that. So he came home from World War II.
Pardon?
He came home from World War II, and
Yes.
and that's when you both met.
Yes.
You met Paul
You met him after the war. Yes.
Yeah.
and got married.
No, we didn't get married till 45.
Okay.
Got married in 45.
Okay.
He came back in 43. Yeah. I got married, I was 20 when I got married. He was 26. So, he had a chance with any of the girls that he knew.
And was he still in the Army when you met him?
Army when you met him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we were at Tampa, Florida, for a while, and they had PMS&T at 3 schools, and they wanted him to go to Japan, so he went over, and then I took my dog. My dad took it to the train, put it on, and he came back. He said, "Betty, don't ever ask me to do anything like that again, because I won't." I didn't know anybody. I'd never been out of Tennessee, I don't think, or Kentucky. And I had to go out there by myself and find the dog, and take the dog out to the park and take him back, and I don't know. It was such a bad time.
You went to Japan?
And I rode the ship over there. I had to take that dog up and take care of its needs.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. You went to
In
Japan?
the rain, whatever.
Yes, you went to Japan.
You went to
Yeah.
Japan because of the dog?
No, my dad was over there.
But
What did Dad do in Japan? What was
he was
doing?
at NCO club, what do you call it, master? Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
That's what he did, and he met a lot of people. He was good to everybody.
He got a lot of people promoted that probably wouldn't have gotten promoted.
Yeah. And then after World War II, what did he do? Did he stay in the Army?
After World War II,
No, he got out for a little bit.
Okay. And did he go back and work at the railway?
we moved to Knoxville, and he worked for the VA up there for some few years, and then
And when did he do the war bonds?
that was earlier. It was we weren't married then because he used to stop by the hotel where I was to see me.
And so-
Oh, you're getting me into all this.
But he was selling
man.
war bonds during World War II.
Yeah, he went to almost every state
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah.
He had to go to all these cities, you know.
And then after World War II, you moved to Knoxville.
He ran the service station there.
Yeah, when he
in
got out for just a
Cleveland.
short while. We're all everybody's sorry.
We're oh,
After the war, he got out of the Army for a little while.
for a little while, but then
Bought a
he
gas station in Cleveland, worked there, and then decided he wanted to go back in the service.
Yeah,
And did he go back into service during the Korean War?
yeah, and
I guess so.
that's,
He re-enlisted.
when we
and-
moved to Tampa, and
Well,
when
he
did we-
re-enlisted at Fort Bragg.
the station released at Fort Bragg. Then they sent him to Tampa. Yeah,
In 48. This was done. We're just
This-
remembered more.
This is he taught ROTC. That's what
Right.
he did in
Oh, wow.
Tampa. Yeah.
Okay. In Florida.
Yeah, he had 3 schools down there, 3 colleges.
And he would go to different ROTC programs at each of these.
Different days he'd go to different schools, you know.
Yeah. I imagine every one of those programs wanted a Medal of Honor winner to be associated with them.
And you know they're not winners. They're
The earners,
recipients.
They're
They're
recipients, of it,
recipients, yeah.
What?
Then he said he imagined all of them
They all
wanted
wanted
a
it.
Medal of Honor recipient
Yeah.
there. Okay, and this is what I found out that I didn't know my whole entire life till I was done with medical school.
He was chosen for one of the barrel of the unknown soldier.
The pallbearers.
He was up there and had his picture all the way around. We went up to
Arlington.
Arlington, and I didn't want him up there. He didn't. He wanted to be at home where
Buried.
I could be with him, you know, in the cemetery.
But I'll tell
He
you this
wouldn't
part.
know.
No, when I was interviewing for residency programs, one of them was in D.C. So we decided to go to Arlington, and we were up at the top, and in the little building up there, and we were looking at all the photos and everything, and they had these big, wide glass cabinets with all these artifacts in, and behind that, there were pictures on the walls, and there was a picture about this big of the unknown soldier burial. And I was looking at it and I thought, gosh, that looks just like Dad stands, the same posture. And so I grabbed her, I said, was Dad a pallbearer for the unknown soldier? And she was like, oh yeah, you know. I'm like, what? You all never told any of us that, you know? And I thought it was a big deal. He was away for 6 months training for that. And they had never told us that. That's how much they didn't talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You yelled at me.
I was like, Mom! How could you not tell us that?
She was so shocked.
And when did he go back into the Army?
He went back in the Army in 48.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was just out for about 5. He sold the station, and that's when he went to Fort Bragg.
Yep.
And then they sent him to Tampa to teach the ROTC. And then he went to Fort Campbell.
Okay.
And that's where, when did you go to Japan? What year?
You mean the all of them?
When you went to Japan.
Oh,
That must have been 55 or something like that. Because they adopted my sister from there.
it's when Daddy took the dog to the station.
Yeah.
I never forget him. Bless his
he-
heart. He's gone.
So he was in occupied Japan for a few years, 2 or 3, and then he went back to Fort Campbell, where he was there till 67.
Put us on
and then
the
went to
front row
Vietnam.
in the plane to come back, all of us. And we landed in Chattanooga.
In Chattanooga.
Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't have an airport in Cleveland.
And then he was in Vietnam for a year.
Do you know why he went back into the Army?
Station.
He didn't like the station service. Too many hours he worked. He never was satisfied, unless he could do everything for everybody. And they all took advantage of him because he was good to them.
And so he didn't want to do the gas anymore. Why go back into the Army?
Well,
he
liked it, I guess. He was, he wouldn't let anybody bother his soldiers.
Yeah.
That's what he and Marsandi got into it about.
And do you remember when he gets deployed and sent overseas to Vietnam?
67.
He left from the airport out there at Fort Campbell there.
Yeah.
I remember him leaving out of the car, and he turned around and looked once, and then he was gone. That was the kids. Your kids were in the car.
Yeah,
That's
I
when
think
he
it
went.
was 67. Because I was about 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what he thought about the Vietnam War?
He thought it was kind of crazy. Said, the guys were so young. That's what bothered him, because he was a little older than most of them.
Yeah.
What I remember from what maybe he told me was that all these soldiers, all these young kids were coming back, and it was such a different war than World War II. And so
that's the reason he had to go
over
over there to see what it was like.
Yeah.
Well, he would have been 59 years old.
No, he was. He retired in '73 when he was 50
Okay.
something. So
Okay.
it would have been. He'd have been 40 something, right?
Okay.
He was 18, so 39 or 40 when he went over.
39, 40. Okay.
Yeah. Is that right?
60. He would have been 50.
We're trying to do math here.
Yes.
Yeah.
If he was born in 16 and he went in 67.
He was born in 18.
18, so he would have been 49.
49. Okay.
49 or 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. 49 is pretty old to go off the war. It's pretty.
He was 49 when he went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
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 And it sounds like one of his concerns was that so many.
It's our bird clock.
Did you tell him about, Kurt knows about it, the guy that went to our church over here in Cleveland? His dad was in the
In
service.
Cleveland or Clarksville?
I get it.
Oh no, that's in Clarksville.
I've been, we lived in Knoxville back years ago,
They lived in Burlington area. That's where they lived when they were here in the 40s.
See, and I get so confused when I start thinking, was it Cleveland, Clarksville, or Knoxville?
No, you're talking about Clarksville.
Kurt talked to him. He went
know what she said.
over there and found exactly where Paul did this work.
In Vietnam?
Oh, Tom Holly.
No, Anzio.
Tom Holly. We're going back to World War II now.
Okay.
He went over there and found it, and Kurt talked to him from over there.
So we had a trip planned to Italy, and we
I mean,
wanted to,
we knew him. His dad was the military, too.
and he was military.
He was military. He was a
my
major.
age, yeah. But anyway, he found the coordinates of where my dad received the medal, and so
Yeah.
we got a driver when we went over there, and they took us to, and it was just like rolling hills and little old stone buildings.
Don used to stand on the fender and ride, and he was driving the convertible. Remember that?
He was a good dad, yeah.
She's one.
So he comes back from Vietnam, and how long does he stay in the Army?
He retired in
So he came back in '68,
He came back in '68.
and then he retired in '73.
He retired in '73.
Yes.
Well, he passed away in '94.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So then after he leaves the Army, what does he do?
We made a garden
Okay. Yeah.
Big garden.
Yeah.
and took care of the neighbors.
Okay.
And you had 2 grandboys with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of raised the 2
And
grandboys.
Paul used to take the boys to the where the fired guns. What do you call it? A rifle. He taught them how to shoot.
Yeah.
We learned how to shoot to the rifle range.
I could outshoot him.
Wow. Okay.
Even
You're
though
good with the rifle.
He knew not to mess with me. Oh no, I loved
they
him.
called him Killer apparently because he was such a good squirrel hunter.
Well, I forget I'm talking.
He worked at Dunbar Cave.
Yeah, so that's what. So he tried working after he retired.
Yeah.
They moved into Clarksville. They bought like 6 acres, and he had a horse, and there was a little pond, and he used to fish in the pond. They made a garden. He worked on cars. He worked on other people's cars.
Yeah. I remember you saying he liked to work
Yeah.
with cars.
And we had the thing built over the garage.
He built a little carport for all the cars, and then he tried working at the car lot near Fort Campbell as a car salesman.
Wow.
That lasted about a month because they had different prices for the soldiers than they had for the civilians, and he couldn't handle that. So he quit working there, and then they had an opening at Dunbar Cave State Park, and he became the caretaker supervisor at the park for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and he just
What a-
meandered around and met people and took them through the cave and
What a life.
Yeah.
All different.
And he helped Roy Acuff.
what?
He helped Roy Acuff
Yeah.
at the park.
So, and they had people visit them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, people would come and, yeah. And I worked at Fort Campbell in between college, you know, like summers one year, and people wanted to go out with me just so they could come and meet my dad.
Yeah.
Some of the soldiers. Do you remember
sure.
that?
Yeah, That's right.
I'm not surprised.
Didn't take me long
right.
to figure that one out.
Now, when you think back about your dad, does his military service stand out to you or something else?
Well, I mean, we were at Fort Campbell.
Yeah.
I was born there, and we never moved. You know, I was 13 when he retired, so that's what I knew.
Yeah.
And then,
What do you remember most about Dad?
About my dad,
Daryl.
he just, you know, he liked children, he liked animals, and he was always rescuing, and happy, and we would always play with the kids. Then we had kids come out. He had a horse, yeah, and he played, the horse was not like the horse was a pet. They would play hide and seek. It died in the back. The horse didn't like Paul. And one day the horse, and Paul had ridden the horse off in the sunburst. We were out outside, and we were out at the, where other basics of Fort Campbell. The Rod and Gun Club, no, it was where we lived out there on the Mabry Road. Yeah. Eddie, he came back without
Paul. So we went looking for Paul. We found him. He had knocked him out completely. He got up raving, "Where am I?"
so the last few, you know, we lived in duplexes and stuff on the base, and then the last few years before he retired, there was an old Southern mansion on the base, on the outskirts of the base, and they were going to tear it down. And my dad said, "No, don't tear it down. You know, it's historic." And so they renovated it, and we moved in for 2 or 3 years at the end. And it had a fish pond. It had a creek that went all the way around it. It had, you know, acreage. We had a garden. We had the horse there, and you know, so that was when I was, you know, 10, 11, 12, something like that. So that was a really great time.
And the school bus, they had a little school bus came out there and picked them up, took them to school, and brought them home. So we had it.
Yeah, it was
kind of nice.
We had 2 kitchens, a summer kitchen and a winter kitchen.
And I took her to ballet. Yeah, she did.
My daughter's.
If she was on TV.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she was on tow. And their dentist came to see her, watch her. Dr. Blevins.
Yeah, that was so when we got married in Clarksville, and my dentist was there, and my pediatrician was there. All this.
Is there anything else you want to share about Paul's military service or the Medal of Honor?
Well, he didn't feel like he was any different from anyone else, you know. That's always the way he thought. But I know he had a lot of black friends, and they loved him because he treated them just like anybody else then. But they had a Melvin Morris. And his wife, they were from Florida, originally from Oklahoma, I believe. I believe that's where they were from, really. But they were very nice. But he just passed away, I think, Melvin, not very long ago. I think it was 83, I believe.
Yeah, so we've gotten where, you know, she doesn't know as many of the recipients anymore because they've all passed away. The last one was
Melvin Morris.
No, who was the one that?
Was it Woody?
Woody.
I don't remember.
Yeah, Woody was the oldest one.
Oh.
He was the last World War II.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I don't remember him that well. I did Morris because his hair was real curly, and he kept it cut, and it was white. And I asked him if it was naturally white. He said, I said, can I feel it? He said, yes. And I thought, when I saw the picture the other day on the iPad, I thought, gee, wonder if he thinks, but his wife was so nice.
So they're a close-knit group, the Medal of Honor recipients. You know, they're very, the wives and, you know, that, when they were younger.
Coolidge from Chattanooga's the one that keeps in touch with us. He wrote me a thing.
Yeah, his granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
Yeah. No, his daughter, but Charles's granddaughter had.
He's an artist.
Yeah, had interviewed her grandmother.
Oh.
So he sent that transcript from that, and they were good friends. They were in each other's lives.
She was talking about her grandmother, Frances, Charles's wife. She was great.
Is there anything you want to say about your dad, his military service, or the Medal of Honor?
Well,
They own it.
he was a dedicated soldier. You know, he took care of his troops, and he helped a lot of people. And then as a civilian, as a retired person, he helped a lot of people. He was kind of a, don't you think?
He's just a wonderful guy.
Yeah. I mean, with his rough edges, you know, of his upbringing, not really having a mom, and he turned out pretty well. So,
I'd say so.
Great.
you know, because it was a rough life. He had some wild times when he was young. So, but a lot of them did. You know, you talked to most of those recipients, and they were risk takers, basically. And he was too. But then after, he was very much a homebody, and he didn't go to all the conventions. He didn't, very, very few. And mainly it was for us. You know, he would go, you know, he took us when they had it in LA. We went to Disneyland back, you know, in 66 when I was 6.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of stuff. They went to a couple of inaugurations, and
Yeah.
they saw, who'd you see perform?
I can't think of his name.
The black guy that was, who was it?
James Brown.
Yeah, James Brown. They saw James Brown perform.
I've forgotten now.
James Brown.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was something. Oh, he was something. Oh, well,
Oh, and you want to talk about meeting John F. Kennedy?
yeah, we met him and his wife.
Yeah.
We said we'd never wash our gloves. We had to have gloves on in the Rose Garden.
Francis Coolidge got to shake his hand. He shook everybody's hand, and they left going, "We're never going to wash our gloves."
I thought I told him about that. He met every one of them.
And you were there with him.
But Paul was the only paratrooper, and he had his boots on. You know, he wouldn't go without his boots.
And his mustache, right?
And his mustache.
And his mustache, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for taking time to share Paul's story. And thank you all for listening.
I think we got carried away.